Well, when I left my father's house, I was supplied. I made a mistake and I did wrong. Now I'm dissatisfied. I think I'll go back home. I think I'll go back home. I believe I'll go back home and acknowledge I've done wrong. What have I gained by sin, he said, but hunger, grief, and fear? My father's house abounds in wealth, and I'm a starving here. I'll go back to my father's house. I'll fall down on my face, saying I'm unworthy to be called your child. I'll just take a servant's place. I think I'll go back home. I think I'll go back home. I believe I'll go back home and acknowledge I've done wrong. My father saw me coming. He met me with a smile. He threw his arms around me, saying, "Here's my wandering child." My father told his servants, "Go and kill the fatted calf, and let us all be merry, for my son's come home at last." I think I'll go back home. I think I'll go back home. I believe I'll go back home and acknowledge I've done wrong.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of the Fisherman Broadcast that we do live each and every single week right here on a Monday night, doing it across multi-platforms. We are live on Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, trying to put it out as many places as we can and get it anywhere that we can. So glad to be able to be here this evening and be able to do this. Appreciate you guys being here with us. Do this, and hopefully we'll have a good study tonight. Lesson, everybody will wait. Possible what we're doing. All right, before we get started, let's go ahead and go over our prayer list this evening. We have Becky Heiser, all of our frontline workers, Melissa Spencer and her kids, Carolyn Sue and Demetrius, Robin Vicky Dickinson, Shania Blevins and her family, Steph Jenkins, Mandy Clifford, Heidi Owens, Jessica Reisner and her family, Rick and Julie Rohr and their family, Julie Morris and her family, Missy Throckmorton, Betty Simmons, Kevin and Kaden Cook, Penny Wood, London May, Scott and Vicky Cohn, Donnie Unger, Courtney Shepard and her daughter, Tammy Hatfield, Sarah Lester, Sean Haywood, Mick Goheen, Chris McKinley, Alex Webber, Keith Hambrick and family, Dennis Luke, Teddy, Ben, Isaiah and his family, Rhonda Shanks and her daughter Destiny, Carrie Clary, Susan Day and her daughter, Ann Lawson, Tonda Conley, Talon Personette, Elisa Hamilton and family, Cliff and Diane Hamilton, Debbie Smith, Lacey Jenkins, Janie Rice, Nora Johnson, Rick Frost, Junior Wiley, Peanut, Jackie Journey, Stephanie Merritt, Mick Wellman, Lee Van Hook, and Scott Johnson. All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, we want to get into our study that we're doing this evening, and we need to do a short little recap. We're reading in Matthew chapter 5, and we're going over what a lot of the Bible's titled the Beatitudes. I like to look at this myself as this be the attitudes that Christians ought to have. Jesus does a lot of teaching on the mountain. He does this personally one-on-one with his disciples, because in order for them to be able to take the gospel, preach the gospel, share the gospel, and also live by the gospel, they need to know it inside and out. They need to have intimate learning of it. They need to know what it means, and who better to teach them than Jesus Christ himself is the one that lays down the roadmap for that for us. So in chapter 5, we talked a little bit already. We read quite a bit about going up. He talked about those that were blessed, and it's not in the Old Testament. A lot of the people decided people were blessed by the riches that they had, the wealth that they gained, things like that. They assumed that if they were wealthy, if they had a lot of things, that God had blessed them, and that He had favor in them, and that's why they're able to gain all that they had. They focused more on earthly or worldly possessions than they did anything else. So, the New Testament teaches us something different, completely new. It's not all your earthly or worldly possessions you have that make you rich, but it's the spiritual possessions, it's the inwardly things. Things like peace, love, joy, happiness, all of that, which all can be found through Jesus Christ and Him living in us. So He takes His disciples up on the mount, teach them this stuff so that they can get a better understanding, fully know and understand exactly what it is that they're learning about. So He talked about those that were blessed. He talked about being the salt of the earth. Going out and more or less talking about those that we are there to spread the gospel. We're there to tell everybody about what Jesus is and what He's done for us. The thing I say the most is the best testimony we have is our testimony, the one of our conversion. When we became introduced to Christ, when we decided to kneel down, we let Him come into our lives. We let Him be a part of who we are. Nobody can testify of your experience but you, in the man, because that's your personal experience with Christ. Nobody else has it. So the best witness, the best testimony that you have is your experience from the day that you met Christ. So we see this, and he talks about being the salt of the earth, the light of the world, being the city set on a hill that's not hid, that a light can be seen from everywhere. And if you take a candle, or if you take a match in a completely dark, pitch black room, and you light it, what happens? No matter how much darkness is in the room, no matter how dark that room is, how pitch black it is, when you light that candle, when that light gets lit, when that match lights up, light automatically overcomes darkness. It wins 100% of the time. There's no time that it doesn't. Darkness never scuffs out light. Light always wins in that battle. And the same thing as the way that the devil has this world walking around in darkness and sin, it is up to us as Christians to shine a light into the world so that they can see that there is a gleaming hope to escape the grasp of Satan and sin in this world. And again, it's very important that we show this light. It's very important that people see this. Not boasting ourselves. Honestly, in reality, it shouldn't have anything to do with us anyway. We don't show the light of God by showing how much better we are than other people, or how much more knowledgeable we are than other people, or anything that we have. But we show the light of Christ by showing what He's done for us, and the condition and the position that we were in, and how that changes whenever He comes in. Because I was nothing when Christ found me, but I became something once He did find me. Nothing, anything great to this world, but something special to Him. So his having Christ in my life didn't make me any more famous. It didn't make the world know my name any better. It didn't make me any prettier than what I was. It didn't make me lose weight. It did nothing for me on the outside. It changed only the inside, and gave me a new look on life and on how I see things and see the world and things like that, and gave me peace. And with that came love, hope, and joy. So we see how that is. We seen Christ made the mention of how he didn't come to destroy the law, talking about the law of Moses, the old law that that the Jewish people lived by for centuries. He didn't come to destroy that or do away with it, but he came to establish it, and he came to more or less verify it. And there's a purpose. The law plays a huge purpose in our lives. So he said, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or to the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." So he's not doing away with the law. He's just come to fulfill things. So that was chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. That's what we read last week. So we're going to pick up this week with verse 21. And what I said last week was, I seen something that has made me look at the Beatitudes in a completely different light. Look at it completely different. I never thought about these things this way. I never examined them this way. But I had a comment that was made to me, or a comment that I seen on a previous post that made me look at these a different way. And so I wanted to go back through them, and I wanted to look at them the way that they were mentioned. And by doing so, I wanted to bring you guys on my journey to look at this. And this is where we begin to get into what I'm talking about with that. The different way that I'm looking at this. And it's going to start with us here in verse 21 of chapter 5. He starts off, he says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, that thou shalt not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment." So he's talking about the law that Moses had wrote. We've got the one of the 10 commandments that says, "Thou shalt not kill." And Moses went on to continue to write a law in there that talked about those that did kill, how judgment would be passed upon them, and they would be pretty much instantly sentenced to die. It was okay. It was the right for the family of that was killed to kill the other in retaliation, and it kind of be okay. But he says, "But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in the danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire." So he looks, and this is, he compares what's coming and the way he feels about things compared to the old law. And we know that this shows that the old law, wrath, gives purpose and makes more or less an excuse for wrath. But now, it's not our place to be angry and get even with somebody. It's tragic if a family member dies, if or if somebody is murdered. I happen to know somebody. I had an employee that was murdered several years back. They never did catch the person that did it. It's a very sad thing, and it was a very sad day for the family. It was a huge loss. He was an amazing gentleman, cared about a lot of people, and this was very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate for his family. But it doesn't make it right for his family to go and, unalive the individual that they feel done this. So Jesus pushes more on it's not our place to deal out wrath. It's not our place to pass judgment. We know the whole New Testament speaks a lot on forgiveness. No matter how many times our enemy or those that come against us, no matter how many times they offend us, we're to show forgiveness and love unto them, and let God deal out the wrath. Let Him deal out the justice or the judgment, because His is more unbiased than anything else in the world. There was a young child, a young man. I say child because he was a high school student, but young man that was mixed up in some things that he shouldn't be in. And he was at work one night and he went missing. And it was a couple weeks later they found the young body, mutilated, very much stuck in a sewer drain. And no matter what this young man was in, no matter what he was involved in, he didn't deserve that at all. He didn't deserve that to happen to him. But there was so many comments made about the two gentlemen that did this to him, and they did catch them. But there was so many comments made about how these other young men that did this, how they should be treated, and things that happened, things like that, and how their punishment should be so much worse, and things like that. And that's where we come across where it's not really our place to decide that. It's not up to us to decide how severe a punishment should be for an individual. But I'm not going to lie and say that I don't understand what they're saying, because I could understand their thoughts and their feelings on it. And it would be there's no way it wouldn't be hard not to want to feel that way. But that's where we rely on Christ, and He allows us. So it gets talking about it. It says, "Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother have aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, while thou art in the way with him, lest any time that adversary deliver thee to the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into the prison. Verily I say unto thee, there shall be by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing." So what if you get caught in that moment of pure hatred? What if that's when you get caught? What if that's the moment, instead of going back? But if you know that you have an issue with a brother, or somebody has an alt with you and things like that, that you would go to them and you would try to clarify. There's a lot of times that I've had people mad at me that instead of them having to come apologize to me, I went and apologized to them. And you may say, well, that's not right. That's not fair, especially if you didn't do anything wrong. But sometimes it's a lot better to go ahead and take that step and apologize, and say, I'm sorry that there is something bad between us, that something happened that's caused these bad feelings between us, whether it be my fault or not, or yours, or whatever the reason. I apologize for this, and I would really like to change the situation of our relationship and try to make things better. That's what Christ is saying. We want to clear the air between us and our enemy, our adversaries, our friends, all that. We want to make sure that there's what we might call today no bad blood or anything there. We want to try to keep things there. Because when there is that when there is that trouble, when there is that guilt, it's hard to focus on the Lord because we have a distraction there. So in order to be able to fully focus on Him, we need to get that stuff taken care of and kind of cleared out of the way. So he says that, leave your gift at the altar, go thy way, be reconciled to thy brother, and then come back and offer thy gift. Then he goes in and he begins to teach on adultery. He says, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. He says, but I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So in the old law, in the law that Moses wrote from the Ten Commandments, that's talking about the actual act of the business, the doing the physical act there, and all of that. And Jesus is saying here that if you're going out and you're looking, men, if you're looking at women beside your wives and you're imagining doing things with them, you're already committing adultery. Women, if you're out with your fellers, your husband, and you see another man and you're looking at him in an enticing way and you're imagining other things happening with him, couldn't be. You're already committing adultery in your heart. You're already looking upon that and wanting that to happen. So there's a comparison between the Old and the New Testament. The Old Testament was the act thereof. The New Testament is you're simply feeling it. If you're pondering it, if you're looking upon it, you're guilty of it now because you're going through it in your head. So you need to be careful with that. He says, "But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman and lust after her committeth adultery with her heart, with her already in his heart. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it profiteth for those that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not thy whole body should be cast into hell." And there's been a great controversial talk or chat upon this. Is this literal? Is he really saying pluck your eye out, throw it out, or cut off your hand and do this? And there's a lot of debates and things going in either direction. People are looking at this both ways, and some say this is figurative, wanting you to get the idea of what's going on, and some say this is real. If it offends you, cut it off. That's kind of where a lot they got, where one of the old punishments, if you would steal, they would take and cut your hand off that you used to steal the item with. They would just remove it. But what is this saying exactly? I can't tell you either way. I know if it came down to it and my hand was offending me, I would rather get rid of it than not go to heaven. Physically, if it came down to it. But I also know that Jesus teaches a lot in parables, figurative speech, and things like that, and tries to prove a point. And I can understand the point in this on that side as well. So take it as you will. You interpret it as you want to and how you feel about it. But that's what it is. You don't want anything. The gist of this, you don't want anything to come between you and God. You don't want anything to be there. You could look at this and say, if you have a problem with looking up things that you shouldn't be looking up on your phone or on your computer, and that is a distraction and causes you to do that, get rid of that phone, get rid of that computer, throw it away, sell it, get rid of it. Don't have that enticement setting in front of you anymore to where you can be tempted to go over and get on it. Cut it out of your life. Get rid of it. There's people that cut out TV because of what's broadcast on TV stations. There's people that get rid of their computers. They shut off their internet because of how easy it is to find certain things on the internet. They don't want that in their home. I know people that do this. Get rid of whatever it is that could cause an interference between you and Christ. And if there's something that is there that can entice an addiction or something that you have, get rid of it. It's the same thing as if you're an alcoholic, you're not going to put alcohol in the house and leave it there. You're not going to go to a bar and try to beat alcoholism. You're not going to be a drug addict and go to a crack house and try to not do drugs. You know what I'm saying? It's how these things are. If there's something there, remove it from your life and get it out of the way. Because if not, it's going to cost you your life, and the Bible says you can be cast into hell for it. That's just how it is. It has been said that whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, committeth adultery. So we have this. This is a huge debate. This is a big thing amongst people and amongst churches, especially in the church world. Moses wrote a law of divorcement that made it legal that if a man was not satisfied with his wife, now you'll know that Moses wrote a lot of these laws in favor of the man to making the decisions because that's how life was between men and women back then. You can look at this both ways. But if a man got tired of his wife, if she did not fulfill her wifely duties, that he could write her a law of divorcement and get rid of her, and she could go on about her way. She could go do what she wanted to do, and he could go do what he wanted to do. And it was okay. But that was the law of Moses. See, when God wrote the commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery, or thou shalt not fornicate, things like that, there was no amendments to it. There was no ifs, or there was no ands, or anything like that. And Moses turned around and done that to appease the people for these situations. But Jesus says that's not the case. We're gonna look. The old law that Moses wrote says that if you were unpleased, you could write a law of divorcement, whether she was whether she cheated on or not. It doesn't matter. If you were just unpleased with her as a wife, get a divorce, send her on her way, and do your own thing again. Jesus says that's not the case, because if you do that, then you're causing her to commit adultery, and whoever would marry her would commit adultery, and that's bad. That's not the case. The only purpose or perfectly good cause for divorce is through fornication, if there was unfaithfulness in the marriage. And men, this goes for you. If you're unfaithful in the marriage, the woman has every right to divorce you and put you away and get rid of you and find somebody that'll treat it right. Same way as men, if the women do that, you're able to, according to the eyes of Christ, he says fornication is the only cause to be able to put them away and move on with your life. So we see this, and we see how this works out, and we see the comparison between the old law and the new law. We see how Christ takes the old law and looks at it and throws a comparison in there, and shows how. Now he said I've not come to do away with the law, but to fulfill the law. So he's taking the law, which is the original 10 Commandments, okay, not the law, not what we call the law of Moses, which is all the extra laws that Moses wrote on top, but the old laws, those original 10 Commandments that God sent down off the hill with Moses. Christ came to fulfill those laws, right? So, and this is what he's doing. That's why he's discussing these commandments. He's saying, here's how it was in the old time. Here's the way God wrote it. Here's what Moses done with it. And here I'm putting it back on the record and setting it straight. This is what's going on, okay? Now, we're going to stop at verse 33. We've done a little bit of time here because we're going to get back to this. We're going to do some more. We're going to get back into this. There's plenty more to go. But I don't want to do too much at one time, because I want to be able to take our time through this. We're going to be a few weeks on this, getting into it and learning more about it. So keep in mind, Matthew chapter 5, it's going to go into on into chapter 6. If you guys want to read along with us, if you want to study and get along with us in here, you're more than welcome to do so. We're introducing ourselves to the Beatitudes and the idea of looking at them as Christ compared them to the Old Testament, and looking at how they compare and contrast the changes, or I don't want to say updates, but the fulfillments that Christ is bringing to them. And that's what we're looking at over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully I didn't lose you guys tonight. And then don't forget, we will be back on this next Monday night at 6 p.m. Back live on all platforms. And glad to do it again. So we're going to stop there. We'll be picking back up at verse 33. Verse 31. 33. Matthew chapter 5, verse 33. We will be there. But for now, that's going to be it. Let's go ahead and look. We don't have any big announcements coming up. So if you guys have any announcements for your church, you got things coming up, you've got homecomings, revivals could be happening just the same as well. Any of that, feel free to send it to me and let me know so I can get it put up on the announcement board, and we'll get it up there. You never know who may be watching in any area, so we're happy to get any announcement out that we can in that manner. But with that being said, appreciate you guys watching. Glad we're able to go through this. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to say a quick prayer and get out of here. And I will see you guys next week. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here. We thank you for the pleasure and the honor to be able to get into your word, Father, and to be able to take your lessons, your teachings, look at them, allow them to edify our hearts and adjust us in a way. We just ask, Lord, that you keep us safe down through the week, Father, Lord, that you just keep a hedge around all of us, and we thank you for all that you do. In your holy name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank you guys very much for being here with me. Y'all have a good night, and God bless.
Well, when I left my father's house, I was supplied. I made a mistake and I did wrong. Now I'm dissatisfied. I think I'll go back home. I think I'll go back home. I believe I'll go back home and acknowledge I've done wrong. What have I gained by sin, he said, but hunger, grief, and fear? My Father's house abounds in wealth, and I'm a starving here. I'll go back to my Father's house. I'll fall down on my face, saying I'm a